Hi guys, and today this is a very special video because I was able to interview Christopher Cox, who writes, directed, and edited some of the horror films, short horror films such as Don't Look Away, Sweet Dreams, and Abby's Monster. So I am so thankful that he's done it. I really appreciate it. And if you want to follow him, he's on YouTube at Christopher Cox and he's on Instagram with Christopher Cox. So it's a great pleasure to meet him. And let's get straight into the interview, shall we? Abby's Monster. I really enjoyed that monster in general. I think for me, even though it's not counted more of a monster, it's my favourite sort of antagonist in your films that I didn't think I'd enjoy that much, but it was more of like I would say like a symbol sort of monster, instead of it being like, oh, scary, oh, he's got scary face, or like, oh, he's got claws. It's more of like
not about the visual,
symbolic sort of monster, metaphorical monster. And I really like it. Do you know how you pulled off do you know when she gets out of bed and she changes ages? That must have been like a few hours or a few days process. That like switching sort of different actresses.
They were tricky. The hardest shot in the film by far was when she bends down to look under the bed and it goes and then all the way back up. That one took a lot of takes, but we knew because it was going to be a challenging shot. But the first switch when she becomes a teenager, that one was very basic. We just match cut. It was go here, she threw the thing down, and then wait. Don't move the camera, and action, and then go up, and there she is. It didn't work perfectly, so I had to do a lot of post-editing to really match those shots perfectly because there was a little bit of micro movement, a little change in the lighting. But then I'm really proud of when it goes behind Kimberly's head and she becomes the adult Abigail. That one was just, movement, just going back and forth with the different actresses and just hoping that one of them would match up, and it kind of did. And then also in post, I did like a whole masking thing and used the darkness of Kimberly's back of her head to kind of mask the line of where the two shots are stitched together, and then that line moves with her head. So it was tricky. There was some fun CGI stuff, visual effects, but I think it worked nicely. I like that shot.
I really liked how did it make it? Do you know the sideways shot that took you ages? Was it like on a sort of gimbal or?
Yeah, it was. I'm trying to remember what it was called. I mean, it was kind of a gimbal. We had a little mini crane that went down and up like this, and then we also had. I forget what it was called, and my brain's blanking, but basically it's on like a thing that you can rotate your camera anywhere you want. And so it was moving up to down and rotate at the same time. And so it was the DP moving the camera down, and then the AC in the other room doing the turning it sideways, and it was just timing it right with the actress, all of that, landing on a good shot too, because it was really close to the floor. It's a big rig, so it was tricky.
Yeah, I remember I did a gimbal recently, and it was an absolute nightmare for me to do it all because I was twisting the camera and it was working, but then it was getting jammed a bit, and it was just an absolute nightmare for me to use it.
Yeah, those things can really be difficult to use if you're not super familiar with it. And sometimes they just mess up, they just break.
Yeah. During Abby's Monster, what would you say would be like the standout moment for you that you've made from Abby's Monster from the 12 minutes?
I'm really proud of when she bends down to look under the bed and then the reaction, and it cuts to her daughter under the bed. Everyone that watches the film, they're not expecting that. They're expecting something scary.
I thought it was a monster, honestly.
Yeah. Everyone's expecting, scary monster creature thing. And instead, no, it's her daughter. And it's like, wait, why is her daughter under there? And then when she says, that's not me, immediately the horror is your thought. You have so many questions now, and you're like, wait, I thought I was ahead of the film, now I'm not. And that's the fear. It's a different kind of fear. And I wanted to, and that, it's psychological horror is my favorite genre, the kind of stuff that messes with my head. And every one of my films has been psychological horror in some way or another. Abby's Monster, the psychological thing of, this isn't my daughter. What does this, what is this? La Mimica, can I trust the voices? Is that actually my friend, or am I being pranked? Sweet Dreams, what is in the dark? What is making that noise? Is it even real? Don't Look Away. I have to stare no matter what. I can't look away from this thing. Otherwise, what will happen? I don't know. It's all about the questions.
Honestly, I'm the same. I love psychological horror movies because it's, for me, even though I do like a slasher now and again, for me it's too repetitive.
It's all been done a million times.
It's done ages. For me, I've just recently watched the Chucky franchise, and I love that. I think the difference between the Chucky franchise and every other franchise that I've seen in horror, it changes. It tries to change things up in every movie it tries, I think.
Yeah, well, what Child's Play did and Nightmare on Elm Street did as well, and honestly, every slasher franchise ends up devolving into dark comedy because you're scared of it at first, but then when you see Chucky too many times, you start kind of laughing at it because he is actually funny, and then the horrible things. Oh no, this person's gonna die. You've already seen Chucky kill so many people. Who cares? Instead, it's, I wonder how violent and gross this kill's gonna be.
Yeah,
and that's not horror anymore.
No, that's why horror has changed in the past even 20 odd years. It's changed a lot from it having like Groundhog-esque with like Happy Death Day, and then it has had like I would say probably one of the funniest comedies that they've done that they've tested is Cabin in the Woods, and that was that
one. That one is making fun of slashers very well done. Also, kind of like the isolation, Evil Dead style horror where there's monsters out there that are coming to get us, and how do we, one by one, we're all dying off. Yeah, it's a game, and it's become, all those types of horror stories, once they're done enough, it's no longer scary because you understand it too much.
Did you ever think, when making like short films, did you ever think of just to have like a sort of comedy slasher sort of thing, or like I'm
not a slasher guy. Like, slashers aren't really what I'm interested in making, and no, because I don't know. To me, you can't really make a horror comedy. Any horror comedy is actually a comedy. It just happens to take place in a horror environment. I do think Zombieland, when I first saw it, and a couple times after, was pretty effective in actually successfully scaring me. But the film is definitely a comedy.
Yeah.
So you can still kind of scare people every now and then, but also like you can scare people with anything. I think the Harry Potter franchise has some of the best jump scares, and it's not a horror franchise at all. It's fantasy. It starts out with kids, but you've seen Harry Potter, right?
Yeah, I've seen all of them. I've seen all.
Oh my God. The best jump scare in Half-Blood Prince, when Harry and Dumbledore go into the cave, and Dumbledore drinks the poison thing, and he's all out of it, and he's like, water, water, and then Harry, it's dark. There's a light in the distance. Harry just kind of climbs down over to the water, holding the little seashell, reaches out, the hand reaches out and grabs him. Oh my God, the audience freaked out. The audience always freaks out. That's a good jump scare.
All right, that's kind of off topic there. So in your, what can you tell me a little bit about your latest short film? Anything?
Sure. Yeah. So it's called The Noise Next Door. And every film that I make, I try and look at what worked about my previous films, what didn't work, what I want to play around with. Do I want to somewhat revisit this kind of idea that I've done before, but do it better? And honestly, The Noise Next Door somewhat is inspired, maybe not inspired, but it happens to be playing around with similar scary concepts from Knock Knock, my first real film that I ever made. And what the thing that is in Knock Knock, I think worked pretty well, but I realized a much better way of making that work. This one also, the most psychological horror film that I'm making now. It's really going to be messing with people's heads. It's going to be very unexpected. There's a lot of change up in the film. Like We're Not Safe Here kind of has a few change ups here and there, little switches where it's like, oh, now the story's headed this direction. But I think people, when they're watching my stuff, they're always trying to kind of figure out what's going to happen next. And sometimes they're ahead of the film, sometimes they're not. With this one, I don't want anyone to really be ahead of it. I want everyone to be playing catch up, just barely keeping up with what's actually going on. And I really want to nail the jump scare. And also the scary thing, because I guess every horror film I've made has a monster of some sort. The monster in this one's going to be my favorite. I think this one's definitely scary. What I'm doing with the monster is going to work really well. It's going to be good. It's going to be freaky. I'm very excited. This is the most excited and confident I've ever felt going into a film shoot of mine.
Have you ever thought of like bringing back some of the monsters, like the Mimica, back for maybe for a
only if I got to make like a feature film, like a full real version of an idea I've done before. But like I've said before, horror, you only fear what you don't know.
Yeah.
Now people know La Mimica. Now people know what's up. So if I bring La Mimica back, it ain't gonna work the same.
Yeah, it'll feel more like a repeat than.
Yeah, it's just not going to be as scary, and that's why I think it's very hard to do a horror sequel, because people know the trick now. They know the monster, so it's harder to actually surprise them and scare them.
What would you say was the hardest post-production editing on each film? Like, what was the hardest film to edit?
That's tricky. Sweet Dreams, there was so much back and forth with the coloring, because I wanted it to be dark but not too dark, but then it would look different on different monitors. It looked different on YouTube versus just exporting it. I need people to watch with the lights off, because otherwise it's too much sun glare. So I put that little tidbit in the beginning, which now is like, I can't, no matter what, you can't really tell people how to watch your stuff. I, of course, don't like that most people will probably watch my stuff on their phone in the daytime, because it's just the worst kind of environment to watch a horror film. Horror is lights out, no noise, no distraction, locked in.
I think for Sweet Dreams was perfect because I watched it. I think it was, I watched it on like Easter Sunday. So I watched it for me, it was like 8 or 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
I turned the lights off, the blinds were closed, and I watched it. And it did actually make me scared.
Nice.
And I really enjoyed it, especially with the sound.
Mm-hmm.
I do.
Yeah, that one was intensive with the sound, because
I loved the sound on that,
and there's no dialogue really, so it was all about the sound effects. That was definitely the most intensive sound design that I had done. However, with The Noise Next Door, I'm hiring a post sound designer to do a better job than me, because I get complaints every now and then where it's like, that dialogue was hard to hear, or like this wasn't mixed properly. And I'm like, I'm doing my best, but I'm not a professional at sound designing. I only know what I know. I got to hire someone else who's a professional. And The Noise Next Door, it's in the title. Clearly there's a noise, and that's got to be important that it works and it sounds good.
Yeah. Just trying to think of all the questions now. Oh yeah, with YouTube, I think the ones that I've enjoyed the most was your mum playing Five Nights at Freddy's and everything.
Oh yeah, I love My Mom Plays. I love that series. It's been a while since I've done one. Did you gotta check out, if you haven't already, the My Mom Plays PT.
Oh, I remember that. I know that game. Yeah. Yeah.
PT is a constant inspiration for me. Every horror film I make, it's inspired by it in some way. The mom in Sweet Dreams, completely modeled after Lisa in PT, Scary Ghost Lady, that's twitching all around,
Yeah.
completely inspired by. Yeah, PT is the scariest experience I've ever had. And video games are scarier than movies because it
Yeah.
feels like it's happening to you. You are in control of it. And in that My Mom Plays video, it's a long one, it's a great one, but if like you don't have time to watch the whole thing, just skip to the last minute or maybe like last like 2 minutes. My mom legitimately freaks out. It's more than just a jump scare. She is screaming for like I think like 15 seconds straight. She is freaking out. I've literally never seen any kind of video, any prank, anything like that where a person freaks out for that long and that much. It's insane. It's like one of my favorite things I've ever captured on camera. And probably also why I don't make those videos anymore because nothing is ever going to beat that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm never going to have my mom freaking out worse than that unless I just put a bear in the actual room.
I'm surprised you even convinced your mum to play any of them.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, she knows that I'm the horror guy, and
Yeah.
I knew that she's a very emotive person. She's funny, and it's funny to get her to get scared. And she doesn't know how to play video games. So there's like so much comedy there, and she understood like why we were making them. You know what the point was, but we had to take breaks. Like I could tell at times she's getting stressed, kind of anticipating like, okay, well, what game next? But then also what I noticed after PT, there were 4 more videos, and Five Nights at Freddy's was the last one. But in general, she wasn't as scared of games anymore after PT. That one broke her. And after that, I think she like upgraded. She has armor now that she can resist the scares.
So was there any other except PT like game inspirations that inspired your monsters in the films?
Honestly, Left 4 Dead. I'm not going to say which one, but there's an accidental inspiration in the Noise Next Door coming up. That is like it was one of those things where I didn't realize I was inspired by it. It was just that I was talking about something, and then I started realizing, wait a second, and then I looked at the thing in Left 4 Dead, and I'm like, wait, oh my god, I totally was inspired by this. I didn't even realize it. So Left 4 Dead inspires me a good amount. Resident Evil 7 especially. That one's getting some inspiration too. That one's a really great one, really scary. Outlast kind of has some elements that I like that I kind of try and mimic in some ways because that's the jump scare century game right there. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that the only thing that I remember when I played Five Nights at Freddy's, I'm still terrified of playing some of those games, especially FNAF 4 with how the breathing mechanic works. And I think horror games with jump scares can be done effectively in games than movies because of it being that you're more you have to take control. You're not watching it over a screen, you actually control it. And I think it can be done better in games, but then it can also be done in films if it's done in a very unique and rare opportunity.
Yeah. Well, every form of entertainment is a form of hypnosis because our brains can only we can only pay attention to so many things at a time. And so when you're watching a movie, if you have lights on and noise is happening, you're not locked in. You can't because there's too much. That's why the prime way in a movie theater is lights off. It's nothing but the screen. So that way you're paying attention to that. But let's say, you just got broken up with the day before. You can probably be watching that movie and get distracted just thinking about that. Or just thinking about like, oh God, I got to do my taxes. Your brain can get distracted. But when you're playing a game, it's you. Yeah. You're in control. So you're even more hypnotized. You're in it.
Yeah.
And when you have people fully locked in and they're anticipating this scare, when is it going to happen? Okay, I guess. And it happens. Much more effective in a video game.
Yeah. I think out of your films that I've seen, I think the scariest one for me was Sweet Dreams. I think the one with the best villain is Abby's monster and the best, I would say, messaging for me. But I think the best character is in
We're Not Safe Here,
We're Not Safe
Alex.
Here. Yes,
Yeah.
he was great in it.
Hey, that means every film
Yeah,
has something. I like
succeeded
that.
in something, and the music in that one too.
Yeah, music. Yeah.
Atmosphere, sweet.
I love the music in Abby's Monster too. I love that.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, and I think the for Don't Look Away for being one of my actual first short films I've watched, and I think I love the simple premise, and I love how it's in the day and the mystery of the guy.
Yep.
And how the use of Chekhov's gun, but I really enjoyed them all.
Yeah, well, I wanted to point out you are one of the few that points out the Chekhov's gun of the mirror. Not many people catch that.
Not many.
Yep, not many people point out like, oh my God, that was the mirror at the beginning of the film. No wonder the film started with the mirror. Yeah.
Yeah, just to draw your attention to the mirror, the first thing.
Yeah. And not only is the Chekhov's gun about the mirror, but that also is setting up the theme of the film is looking at yourself, because that's what defeats the monster. The monster had to look at itself.
Yeah.
So
I think we might have to end it here because of the meeting time.
Yeah, we got a good probably like 35 minute interview on recording.
Yeah, it might be about 20 odd, but I think we've had a good like few hours talking.
Yeah, this is fun.
Really appreciate it. I haven't done one of these before, but I'm really happy I got in touch with you and you said yes.
Yeah. I love doing interviews, talking about film and stuff.
Well, I've made a YouTube channel, and one of the videos on it is your review. So I went more in depth.
Oh, nice.
So what I'll probably do is share you the video.
Yeah.
And what I'm also planning to do is on that channel to make the rest of your the films that you've done and made put more in depth, because I think me just writing a review cannot cover all of what is in the movie.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, yeah, definitely. I want to see the reviews for my other stuff, and if you wanted to see something that wasn't horror or something that is maybe longer, the Panic series, a 10-episode series, that one's the best story I've done. Definitely.
Where would that be? Where would that be?
That would be on my channel. It's on the front page. Yeah. Just when you'll see Panic, and it's
all right. I've subscribed already, so I'll just
that one's a fun journey. People really like that. I think of all the things I've ever made, Panic isn't the most popular. Didn't get a ton of views, but the comments on the finale are very reflective, and people seem to genuinely appreciate the story that I ended up telling throughout the 10 episodes. Like, people say like they cried and things like that, and I'm like, wow, that means something to me, you know?
Yeah. So I'm glad for this interview, and I'm happy to talk that I've met you and talked to you. Well, not
absolutely.
In person,
it was great meeting you, Jay.
In virtual. And thank you so much for this opportunity. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you for interviewing me.
And thank you so much, Christopher, for letting me interview you. It's been a pleasure. Great talk to you. It's been an absolute laugh. I love how gaming was also an inspiration for making monsters, and it's just been a really great conversation. So what we're going to do on the channel next is we're going to be reviewing some more of Christopher Cox's work. So I'm thinking I'm going to review Sweet Dreams first, because I really enjoy that movie the most. And it will be straight after some other reviews, but I would highly recommend watching all of his films. They're all going to be recommended in the comment section, and there'll be links to the films, so you can just click the link and watch them. So hope you enjoyed, and subscribe, like it, really appreciate the channel, and see you guys later.